And so yet another installment into the hidden history of the African American fighting man. You've heard of the 761st Tank Battalion. During World War II, they were called the Black Panthers. They were the tip of the spear at the Battle of the Bulge when General Patton was commanding the armies there during World War II. Not much is said of them, and that's why we are talking about it. I've shared it with you. The 761st Tank Battalion spent more time in combat than any other tank battalion during World War II. But there's something else you need to know. It was the winter of 1943, 44, when the 761st Tank Battalion were, in fact, on their way or preparing to leave Fort Hood. Actually, it was Fort Knox, pardon me. See, they went to Fort Claiborne and then Fort Knox. I was just in Fort Knox, and that's where Patton's army was training, the tanks, that is. And an interesting happened that year before they went, the Christmas before they went. While other white commanders were singing I'm Dreaming of a White Battalion, you see, most Caucasian officers were from the South, and they felt that when they had to command African-American troops, they were thereby relegated to not being in action because, after all, it was generally accepted by the War Department that African Americans wouldn't be used in battle, which they found out very early on was a mistake. But there was one commander by the name of Paul Bates, B-A-T-E-S, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Bates. He commanded the 761st Tank Battalion, and the African American recruits adored him. Why? I tell you why. Because he was a straight shooter, number one. Number two, this Caucasian commander revered the brave warriors who fought for him. He revered them so much so that he didn't sing the song, I'm Dreaming of a White Battalion. Instead, he was offered to be transferred at a higher rank, and he chose instead to stay with the 761st Tank Battalion. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, he was a commander when they spent more time in the field in battle than any other tank battalion. Some 186 days in combat, to say the least. All right, folks, let's get to it. A lot to cover, short period of time, still resonating. The stopping of the Fairley family there in Gulfport, Mississippi. Some of you have now seen the videotapes. We've heard as well from Chief Papania, and actually Mr. Kelvin Fairley also gave an interview and basically responded to the tapes that he saw, basically suggesting that the tapes were edited, and they were. Very soon, I'm very hopeful that we'll be playing for you the 911 call. Do we have him? We do have him. Actually, Fairley did an interview. Set this up here, Whitlock. So Kelvin Fairley met with the local newspaper, and they did an interview?
Yes. It's like a follow-up, basically, after the footage has been released.
Okay, and so?
Well, he apologized for thinking originally that he didn't apologize for the stop and the guns, but he pretty much stood firm on everything else.
Yeah, he feels so he admits that it was a pretty extenuating circumstance whereby he and his family, you can't expect the guy to remember anything once you've had a gun in front of your face. I get that. There's no doubt about that.
And your family. Yeah, so he apologized for not remembering what he did, but still upset, still stirred up.
I actually had an opportunity to chat with his attorney, Carlos Moore, last night, and without going into great details, he indicated that there was some great concern regarding the tapes and wanting to, at the same token, take a look at all of the tapes, unedited. And there was significant concern as to how the procedure unfolded, according to Mr. Moore. There are some experts who see it differently, who feel that law enforcement, local law enforcement, were heavy-handed. So this is going to go on, I don't doubt, either in federal court, or we have a civil suit, or the like. I do feel that, however, Chief Apania certainly reacted and responded very firmly because of how the Fairley family was treated there at the police station. I think that spoke volumes, whereby he owned up to the fact that at that point, Gulfport PD had failed and they were rectifying that situation. You know, there's some argument that had that not happened, we would not be talking about this. Yeah, no doubt. And actually, chatting with Mr. Fairley, he owned up to that fact that that's a possibility. And I think when we did the interview, and when I asked what it is he would like to see come out of this thing, he was pretty forthcoming with. He'd like for the wrongdoers to be certainly dealt with in the way of reprimand, firing, or what have you. And he was concerned that his children would not be adversely affected going forward. So we're going to keep you posted on that. I know there's national stuff, but I've got to handle the state stuff first. You know, we have been promoting that we're going to chat with a teacher, Miss Erin. I refer to her. You'll probably hear her whole name. I don't think that's as important right now. She's in a holding pattern, I guess. She was employed by Kelly Services, and Kelly Services was employed by the Biloxi Education Department for use of her as a substitute. And we reached out to her. Actually, I understand, Whitlock, you went to school with Miss Erin.
I did.
She's a cheerleader, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that she still is a cheerleader for education and for students. And I wanted her to have her day in the sun, at the very least. After seeing the videotape that went viral, and actually I think we might ought to play that, bro. It's a very short piece, the viral video of when there was a confrontation between Miss Erin and a student there, 11th grade student, whereby the B word was tossed around. Actually, she was called a B, and she retaliated by calling the student a B. And many of you had some pretty serious things to say about that, and serious criticism, including the school administrators. She was relieved of work, but I wanted to chat with her to find out and hear her story as to how this came to be, why she responded the way she responded, and what she thought about the whole process of how we're educating our children, and what's wrong, what's right, and what she could have done better. So I'm glad I chatted with her earlier, we recorded it, and I want to play it in its entirety. If we don't finish in this segment, Ro, we'll come back with it. But here is how that interview went.
I really, really, really appreciate, first and foremost, your coming on with us, but even more so, I appreciate the fact that you're a teacher. That is an incredibly honorable profession. People just don't know how important your profession is, and anyone who would volunteer to be a teacher, in my book, is no less than someone volunteering to be a police officer or joining the military, because what you're doing is getting into a profession that is seeking to help society. And although you're paid for it, I don't think nearly enough, but although you're paid for that service, the truth is that it is the most necessary service in a civilized society. So I just want you to know that I have the greatest appreciation for anyone who would get in the classroom and seek to teach others. I'm sure your life has probably been made pretty miserable, possibly, given recent events of the video that went viral. How has it been for you, Miss Erin?
Well, Rip, I was put on the news. Now, to be made as this teacher that just cursed out this student. But if you look at the video and listen to the video, part of the video, the incident that occurred before the students started recording the video was not played or was not put out there or was not given to WLOX. But I was made to be this teacher that blatantly cursed out this student that called me out of my name 15 times before this video started. This student was cheating on her exam. She had a phone out, which is not prohibited during an exam. And she began to be upset with me because the previous period before, which was fifth period, she had an opportunity to study for her test. Well, I wouldn't let her do it. You know, I mean, I let her study, but because I didn't let her cheat on her exam, I became a name. So she said it to the other students 15 times before I responded. But what I told this student was, if you want respect, basically from me, then you're going to give it to me. If you call me out of my name, just expect to be called one back. Now, I could have handled the situation better. Of course, we all can. Every situation can all be handled better. But for them to put me out there like I just cursed her out, I don't feel like that was right. Because the situation that took place before the video, I don't feel like anybody, any educator should have to go through that. Now, I'm a substitute. I don't have a 401k through the school or anything like that. But $9.38 an hour is not worth a child being disrespectful to you. Now, I've been to school. I've had a business. I've failed at a lot of things in life. I know a lot of life experience, and I do know that if this child, who has been in school 10-plus years, so she knows that she's not supposed to be calling authority or her teachers, out of their names, but she's coddled, and the behavior is condoned by the school system.
What do you mean by condoned by the school? Is there not a policy regarding a student? If I'm temporarily suspended, I'm not going to say fired right now because I'm not fired. Kelly Services said they will get back with me. But if I'm temporarily suspended from my job for responding the way I did because of this child, and these kids are the ones who sent the video in. Nothing happens to the student, but I'm fired. Who wins? Yeah.
Me or the student? And then what happens further on when they have other substitute teachers? Oh, well, this behavior, all we have to do is record her and turn her into WLX or the principal, and then she's fired.
Are students,
but there again,
why
is there a shortage on teachers, and why do they have a problem getting substitutes to these schools?
Right.
Because we're preyed upon, and then we're not protected. Now, what I did, it's not adult behavior. I'm not denying that. But it's something that these teachers and educators have been wanting to say to these kids, but they can't because they have 401ks. They've been to school for education or to teach these kids. I've been to school for legal studies. That's what I went to school for.
Right. Let me ask you this.
With a degree, you can, with Kelly Services, as long as you have a degree, you can work in that field, and you can always take any degree that you have and go into education.
Right.
As long as you take the alternate route or whatever. But
so let me ask you this.
People have turned away from being educators.
Ms. Aaron,
they're not protected by the school, and the behavior is condoned.
Yeah, Ms. Aaron, let me ask this. Is it against the rules of the school for a child to have a cell phone on in the classroom?
Yes, it is. There were, on the teacher's door, before the exam even began, I asked the students to clear their desk and put the phones away. This student in particular, fifth period, she was acting up in class, wasn't studying. It was an ACT study period. She wasn't studying or anything. And so at the end of that class, fifth period, I told the student, I said, well, tomorrow when you guys come in, because you cannot behave properly, I'm going to give you an assignment. The student, that one student in particular, this young lady, she said, I'm not doing an MS thing. I'm not doing SHIT. And I said, well, if I give you an assignment, you're going to do it. I didn't write her up. She disrespected me in fifth period.
Well, was she the one recording? Was she the one recording the video, or was it another student?
No, it was another student, and I think she had her phone out too. But
desk in front of her that was recording it.
Why didn't
I don't know his name. I mean, I'm not going to.
Why didn't you report her or just send her to the office once she acted up or called the name the first time?
Well, that's the thing. With Kelly Services, and I'm not going to just put Kelly Services out there to be bad, but if you write these students up too much, they say that you can't manage your classroom. It's all about classroom management. They want you to be able to handle these students in your own way without sending them to the office. I have sent students to the office several times, and they send them right back to class. I mean, right back. So
there's no penalty?
How are you supposed to get help?
So there's no penalty for a woman, for a young student who would call the teacher the B and say the MF word? Is that not in the handbook that they should be suspended or something?
I'm sure it is, but is it followed? That's something I don't know.
Yeah.
That's something I don't know because, like I said, when we send, I'll tell you this. I know this one thing for sure. The substitute teachers, when they write these students up, they are not taken as seriously because I've had students tell me, if I threaten them and say, I'm going to write you up. Well, they're not going to do anything. They're just going to tear it up. You're just a substitute teacher.
Really?
And these kids know that. These kids know that they're not going to be in trouble because this is a substitute teacher. This is nobody that has a license or a degree or in education, so they feel like we don't have to respect her. I'm telling you, substitute teachers are preyed on, and some of these other teachers too. I mean, every teacher, I'm sure, is dealing with their own things. In eighth grade, I substituted earlier in the year. And, of course, this wasn't reported to WLOA. A student pushed me in the classroom, 8th grade.
Wow.
I asked the student to come to the hallway so I can discuss. She was arguing with another little kid, and I asked her to come to the hallway. Well, as she was walking out, she said, "You got me messed up," and she pushed me. Now, that issue was, pushed under the rug, not sent to WLOA, but I'm a teacher being assaulted by a student. But I'm still going back to the school because I love kids. You can ask the kids in third period what I was telling them to do. Go ahead and go to FAFSA.gov and register. Get in college. When you go to college and you get your refund check, don't use it and buy clothes and Jordans and things like that. Start you a business. You going to school for business? Take those $5,000 and do your trial and error. I'm trying to help these kids be better in life and learn from the experiences I've had and the mistakes that I've made.
Let me ask you this.
That's a teacher.
Yeah,
That's
no
a
doubt.
teacher.
There's no doubt. So how has things been, I guess, response?
Well, there's always been two sides. Everybody, I have some support, a lot of support, but then you have those other parents that say, well, that couldn't have been my child that she was talking to like that. And there I go, I don't want to blame this on the parents because, like I said, these kids have been in school 10 plus years, so they know better. So I don't want to blame it on the parents. But it does come from home to a certain extent. Some of these kids curse their parents out. They, they're very disrespectful to their parents, so they come to school and feel like, well, I can do it to the teacher. And what is my parent going to do to me when you call them or contact them? Nothing, because I'm going to call them exactly what I just called you.
Incredible. So let me ask you, when this happened, did you talk to the principal that you, after class, insist that the girl go to the principal, or?
Well, the video, from the time the video surfaced, that happened in 6th period. The class was over. I was going back up to 7th period to my other class, and by the time I made it to 7th period, Dr. Fantroy was at my door. He wanted to speak with me, and he just said, "Ms. Cooper, you're a good teacher. You don't bother these kids. You let them pretty much. I know they're in high school. I know they're young adults. So I don't mess with these kids because I know how dangerous it really can be. So I try not to mess with them. And I just told him, I said, but I don't feel like I should be threatened or called out of my name when I'm doing a service to not only the taxpayers, to these students, to the parents, and to the school. Because that day when I was there at Biloxi High School, there were 17 substitute teachers that day. Whoa. At that one school, 17 substitute teachers. And not only were there 17 substitute teachers, but that one classroom in particular didn't have a teacher in it. They couldn't get anybody to come there. That's why everybody was rotating on your planning period. So it just shows that a lot of people don't want to deal with, disrespectful children, and it's hard to get teachers at the school. But when you handle them the way that they need to be handled, which is if you disrespect me, you get disrespected. If you respect me, I'll show you the utmost respect and teach you everything that I know. You can learn, and that's what a lot of kids don't know. They judge you. Oh, you've made mistakes. You've done this. You've done that. I have. I'm the first one to admit it. But you know what? Life is all about trial and error. What do you do once you make those mistakes? Where do you go after that?
Did the girl that was calling your name, did she bristle up or seem like she would potentially get belligerent with you?
Oh, well, she was. After they cut the video off, which was not shown, the little girl, she said, she got me effed up. She got me messed up. I can't stand that beat. F that beat. Oh, it kept going on. And as you can hear at the end of the video, she's still cursing and saying she doesn't give an F. That's at the end of the video. Nobody, the people that, didn't watch the video fully, they didn't even talk about the students still disrespecting me as the head and chief in the classroom in front of 30 other students, because these classrooms are packed because they don't have any teachers. Classrooms now have 30 and 35 students in it, and the cap is supposed to be, I think, 30.
So I'm imagining at 11th grade this young lady was 16, 17?
17 years old. Aren't all 17-year-olds that they committed crime tried as adults? Yeah. So why are we trying to make her like she's a child?
Yeah. So the class ended. I'm just trying to figure out here, because you had, how did things end in the class in that period? Did she finally relent, back down?
Well, she left. She walked out because she saw that I wasn't leaving, so she left. And then I went back to 7th period. That's when I talked to Dr. Fantroy, and I told, and he told me, Miss Cooper, you're a good teacher, and these kids have cameras in the classroom. You're going to be all over Facebook, and we'll just see how it turns out. And, by the time 3:30 hit, it had gone viral.
I'm curious as to whether she was expelled for what she did when she walked out. Or do you know?
Well, from what I saw, it said that they were checking to see if the student was okay and if she was harmed. And then the same student, she got on Facebook and she made a comment. She said, that big B didn't faze me. She was talking about me. She said, that big B didn't faze me. And some other comments or whatever. She said, I know that one was for sure. But these kids aren't fazed by anything anymore.
Why, with that said, Miss Aaron, why even pursue it? Why do you, I hear the passion in your voice, and I hear the disappointment that it turned out this way, because it sounds to me like you wanted to help her. Why even continue your passion for teaching?
I don't have any kids myself. I have, my boyfriend, he has, children, and I love kids. I always have. I have a niece and a nephew. I have always loved children. I worked with Freedom School in Jackson when I was in college. That's for underprivileged kids. I used to take those kids home, comb their hair, give them a bath, teach them things, read to them. It was a reading program that I taught. But I have a love for kids, and I also feel like the things that I have been through in my life and the experiences that I have been through, I can teach them not to go down some of those same roads and how to be better citizens. These kids are our future. Now, these kids think they can disrespect authority. When they become adults, what happens?
Yeah.
The behavior still repeats itself. That's what behavior does. If they do it as adolescents, they're going to do it as adults.
So how would
if nobody teaches them that that's not the way you're supposed to go through life on their level sometimes, they don't understand.
So how would you, what could have happened? What tool could have happened that day that would have helped you better help the young lady who was causing the fuss?
Now, what I could have done is not responded. Let her keep on her rant and wrote her up into the office, and I'm sure she would have been back in school the next day. That's what I could have done.
But I'm asking you what granted, I got you, and I appreciate you sharing that. But my question is, if you had an opportunity to change the system, let's just say, or had the authority, you had indicated that you're supposed to be the authority in the classroom, but it seems like you don't. You're not the authority based on what the students are saying and what you've described. How would you improve this? How about that? So that this wouldn't happen again.
Well, I can't really say that I would, expel the student, but she would definitely reap some consequences for it. But, if sometimes if you have to make that example and say, hey, we're standing firm on this, if you disrespect our teachers, you won't be at this school.
Yeah. Would corporal punishment work?
Like jail?
I'm just saying. I'm just. No, really. What I'm saying is I'm trying to figure out how do you get a 16 or 17-year-old person to respect the authority? In other words, if there's a consequence, there has to be a consequence. If it isn't suspension, expel, then it's got to be another consequence. Do you have any other ideas?
Well, I guess we have to go back to. Because I don't really feel like. But there is a charge for that, disorderly conduct. So I feel like if I was in the classroom disrespecting this student just outright, she never said anything to me, and I just started ranting at her. Do you think that they will put me in jail?
Well, I think if you assaulted her, they certainly would. I mean, if you just started, being belligerent or using foul language, I mean, you would probably go through what you're going through right now. Obviously there's an assumption that in the classroom, you've got to know who the professional is. I mean, you've got to have a different differentiation between who's the student and who's the teacher. That's where the area some might argue was grade. But my position is, and I've talked to many teachers, I've been in the hallways and I've actually heard students in middle school curse, and a teacher explained to me that they're powerless to do anything about it because of the lack of support from the administration. And that might not just be the principal. It might be the administrator, literally, handling things in such a way to try to maintain the student body and student count, as opposed to maintain some semblance of order in the classroom. I've always believed that what problem we're having now in class, in schools, especially public schools, is a matter of discipline. If you don't have the discipline, the academic.
And they've taken it out of school.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out, as a teacher, not every student in there was acting this way. So obviously you were reaching 20-something, close to 30 other students. But it was this student that interfered with your ability to teach.
That is an earlier interview I had with Miss Erin Cooper, who was a teacher, who's, the video's gone viral, and based upon her response to a student in the 11th grade who referred to her as a B, and she responded in kind by doing the same. Wait, that's not all of it. We're going to come back with the remainder of that interview, and it's quite telling. I guess I'm just curious. Rose sounds like a teacher with a chip on her shoulder, out of control?
No,
I mean,
not at all.
Does
Not
this
at all.
change your... I mean, you saw the video, and we're going to play excerpts from that when we come back, and it's on our Facebook page. So what's your thoughts about this teacher?
I think she's a good teacher. I think she was in a situation where she was basically at her wit's end with a student and reacted the way she thought that would get through to the student. Whether or not that goes against the rules and regulations, probably not a good thing for her to do, obviously, but at the same time...
I mean, calling a student a beat?
Well,
really?
I mean, if this student is belligerent and out of control in the classroom, the situation would have been a lot worse, like you just said, if she had reacted physically to this student as opposed to reacting verbally.
Yeah, but there were other students in the classroom. I mean, they were privy to a teacher using the B word. Do you think?
They were, but they had just heard a student say it, so it's not like they had never heard the word before. That's not giving her an excuse for using that type of
Well,
language.
she indicated that it was wrong. I mean, she didn't defend it.
No, she didn't. But I think that, again, she acted the way she thought would get through. I think Miss Aaron's a good teacher. I think she was caught in a situation where she made a bad decision, perhaps. Well, definitely by her own admission. But I still think she's a good teacher. And I would put that up against other teachers' opinions of her as well.
All right, hang on, Glenn. The rest of you guys, I promise you we're going to get you in. We've got the next segment with Miss Erin Cooper here, the teacher at Biloxi High, who's hopefully not going to lose her job as a result of her actions earlier. We'll be back.